So tonight's topic brings us to the very important Buddhist topic of meditation and practice called refuge. So, and we will, as a part of this course, we will do a refuge practice as well. How is the refuge meditation done? How do you do the refuge meditation? So firstly, we spend a little bit of time about understanding what is refuge. Firstly, it's called the etymology of refuge. If you look at the word refuge in English, pretty obvious, means safety. People want safety is first. Everything is safety, really. Whether you're traveling or whether it's health or whatever, Even you always say insurance first before you get into anything. So in Buddhism also, if you don't have refuge, you have no insurance to practice on the journey of enlightenment. So refuge is the refuge in Sanskrit is Triratna. Tri is the cognate with the English word triple. Ratna means precious. So there are 6 reasons why they are called precious. And of course 3 and so on. And precious jewel, so it's a precious jewel, 3 precious jewel. What makes a precious jewel special is there are 6 reasons why they are precious. First is the very rare. The triple gem is very rare, not only of the existence, but those who will recognize and cherish and then value, and then actually receive the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha. Majority intellectually you can say browsing, but not spiritually actually accepting, receiving the triple gem. So it's very rare indeed, those who truly recognize the Buddha and the gemness of it, the Dharma, the extraordinary gem that you experience by practicing of it, and the gemness of Sangha, whose life's completely transformed by the possession of the gem. If a person who was poor is called poor, but once he become possessor of wealth, it's called wealthy. And so like that, person who receives and accepts the triple gem is a gemmy. he's got a lot of gems in his life. What is the gem we're talking about? Is an ordinary gems, like traditionally, mythologically, there's a thing called wish-fulfilling gem. Everybody who holds the gem and make a prayer, it comes true. Their wishes come true. Like in the West, particularly a lot of sporting clubs might be trophy, I don't know whether holding the trophy fulfills your wishes or not, but people do grab it and kiss it or something. So gem, just think about like a very special gem, as you get to hold it, let alone possess it for a year. They're only to lose next year, basically. Yeah. So this gem is very special. This is not only difficult to find, but once you become possessor of it, you will not lose it. It is not lose it in terms of a possession. The more your acquaintance grows with it, that much its value increases. Yeah, because it's a very, very rare and excellent gem. Of course, we can understand the gemness of Dharma, why it allays suffering and its causes. Even money or wealth, whatever, doesn't allay sufferings. They actually create sufferings. But if you understand the Dharma, and if you really have the gem truly received, you can see how it is alleviating, removing a lot of your suffering caused by seeking wealth and possessing wealth and fighting over it. All of those sufferings no material gem has alleviated human suffering. But gem of Dharma, which is very rare, not only it's coming, but those who recognize it and those who values it is very rare. So that's the first reason. Second is that it's like the gem is very precious and untainted by soil or wherever it is found. It's very bright and shiny. Like that, those who receive the triple gem and the qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha is that all of them are free of defilements. Buddha is completely enlightened one. And Dharma is the technique, the recipe. By practicing of that gem, your own affliction will be eliminated. So free of affliction. And Sangha is the, by becoming Sangha or reach a certain exalted state of Sangha, then they actually have the same qualities, smaller qualities, but otherwise very enlightened qualities, like the Buddha. They too will drop afflictions. If they had, they will drop. And slowly and surely, their defilements are a thing of the past. The afflictions, the habits are all being purified. By a person who practice refuge, they are safer because they don't keep the anger that long. And they don't see useful of benefit of it. They see the destructive harmfulness of it. So they learn to practice Dharma to get rid of anger. So anybody who practices Dharma or have refuge learns to free themselves of their defilements. Why? That's what the gem does. The gem itself doesn't have any affliction. It is devoid of any of the afflictions of karmic or emotional afflictions. Third is the possessed power. Gem is always precious. Its value always increases. Look at the diamond and gold, What it was, its value 10 years ago, 20 years ago, now how much it is an ounce, you wouldn't believe it's always stay more valuable than ever did in the before. So, no matter how the world degenerates, the triple gem and its value and its benefit, its respect and power will increase. This is not just this is not a promotion, This is not I don't need to promote. Oh, how dare I try to promote what is not necessary to promote, isn't it? I don't need to promote the qualities of Dharma, but this is just fact, You have to recognize why the gem is gem, That is rare, that is purificatory, that it empowers you. It empowers not to control other people or anything like that. It empowers you to get rid of your own inner enemies. It subdues your own inner foes that you haven't recognized. It makes you to see and know how the traits of the afflictions and karma. And by taking refuge, you are going to disempower your afflictions. And the afflictions becomes the cause of your own nourishment and growth once you have the recipe of Dharma. So that's why it's very powerful. Gems are usually very powerful, it's always valuable, and so on. So it's named after gem, possess power. And gems usually people put on the ears or nose or somewhere else, on the queen's head also. Put some little bit of diamond, then goes like this. It's like that. Who has the Dharma, it beautifies their life. Those who have Dharma, they become beautiful. Their heart and their mind, their life, their difficulties, never mind. They have this gem that they by possessing of which their life become beautiful. They may have they have experienced loss, they have experienced this and that. But in spite of all the sufferings of the world, one who has Dharma has always beautiful thing. They never feel dejected or unworthy once they have Dharma. They can lose everything, but they never feel poor because they have the riches of the riches, all riches, So therefore, it's ornament of the world. Not only it is enriching for the possessor, but it's also being inspirational to other people. Everyone who hears it will inspire them and makes them also go deeper into their gems if they have one. If not, they too will become inspired to go deeper, like through the amazing work of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He's promoting great humanity and peace and tolerance with all people, with or without spiritual tradition. And people who become better Christians or better humanitarians or kinder scientists or whatever. People are, as soon as they understand the Dharma, they straight away change. And if they really put the Dharma and its messages into their works, their work many, many times more meaningful, beauty worth of sharing, and the beauty that doesn't age. Beauty that is actually is ageless beauty, unaging beauty. Where did you see that? That's why we bow down to Buddha. We throw ourselves before the Buddha because we could not imagine or could not say in our words that actually can express its valuableness. And so we offer our service, offer our physical labor, or verbal labor, or mental devotion. So that's what the refuge is, the ornaments of the world. And it is sublime. Because when it refers to sublime, means it transforms us to become something peaceful and sacred. Every difficulty becomes very useful. It actually sanctifies suffering, because it makes us, the suffering is not something rejected or an object of those who suffering makes us to become compassionate, and their suffering turns us to become compassionate. So ordinary people previously were pushing and rejecting suffering, and they never became sublime. And those who embrace suffering, those who understand suffering, then even the suffering and working with suffering, however ordinary person one is, their life suffering becomes useful, sacred cause of liberation. Yeah, so that's only if people who have people who have refuge in the triple gem. These are, of course, the quality of the triple gem, and sixth one is unchanging. It's eternal. The qualities of triple gem is not some concocted things, some made up things, some produced things. That's just that they just are, Like the gem is not sort of polished by somebody or put another thing there, made yellow when it's red, made red when it's blue. It's not like that. Lapis is lapis by itself. Gold is gold by itself. So it doesn't become blue, for instance. Gold doesn't tarnish, gold doesn't rust. It always stays gold. Like that, Dharma is always so distinctive. So easy to recognize that is true Dharma. It's written in whatever language whoever says. They may never even say they're Buddhist, but that the words and teachings you read, you can see the Dharma is filtering because it has this imperturbable quality that stays. So that's the meaning of the word Ratna, precious. 6 rin. This is mentioned in the text by Maitreya called Uttara Tantra. Whole chapter has been devoted on talking of the qualities of the gem, 3 gems, and then so that's just generally about the gem, and then that there are triple gem. Triple gem is there are 3 of them. There are Buddha gem, Dharma gem, and Sangha gem. So we'll talk about that a little later. First is what makes a person or anybody to find refuge, the cause of refuge. What is the cause of refuge? So cause for going for refuge is the word for going means person must deliberately leave something and go and reach somewhere. So a person who has gone for refuge definitely is leaving something of themselves in the past and then depart from that and then reach somewhere. And so like you reach a destination. Person who find a refuge have left something of themselves in the past. Be that their attitude, behavior, ideological views, or whatever they are, and they have become safe. Previously with those things they're not safe. And now they have dropped those and adopted this refuge practice. And so what are the causes for going for refuge? Causes for going for refuge is 3. Firstly, fear. Fear of so many things. Here I've listed 3. because in Buddhism there are three schools, three traditions: Theravada, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. Each of them go for refuge with slightly different kind of fears. Average people, when they go for refuge in the Buddha, the triple gem, they go motivated by fear of sufferings, yeah? And our majority of people will be that. They fear suffering, and therefore they run into shelter. So refuge is always from, try to go away from flood and go somewhere dry, or try to go away from somewhere that is fearful of whatever danger, you go somewhere secure. So therefore, people try to remove themselves from sufferings. So when we refer to suffering of this life, maybe suffering of even next life, people take refuge. Most Buddhists don't take refuge just for this life. They take refuge in the triple gem, not only this life's fear, but fear of future rebirths. And so that's a little bit more sort of inclusive, yeah. So that's that. First is fear, very common one. Most people have fear. Second one is Mahayana Buddhist. Primarily, Mahayana Buddhists also will be motivated to go for refuge due to suffering for themselves and others mainly. But most importantly, they want to go away, depart from selfishness. So Mahayana's main purpose of refuge, cause for going to renounce selfishness, because they realize selfishness is the biggest cause of even the sufferings. His first reason was to go away from suffering, but what's the point of going away from suffering when the cause itself is cultivated? So then you realize selfishness has to be, you go refuge in order to overcome selfishness. So that's mainly Mahayana Buddhist attitude. And then the third one is Vajrayana, that's an esoteric Buddhist. Esoteric Buddhist, not everybody follows esoteric, but those who do, they are encouraged. But not only you take refuge from fear of suffering of this life, old age, sickness, death, parting, and all that, as well as selfishness, but most importantly, they take refuge to overcome their impure perceptions. So their perceptions are seeing ordinary, seeing delusion, seeing blaming others, and all that sort of thing. So all the dualistic perception, not only things seeing, existing as we see, but as if they truly exist from themselves. That kind of wrong perception, impure perception, it's made impure by thinking it truly exists. Cognitively wrong information, impure or defiled information. So therefore one seeks refuge in the triple gem to overcome one's wrong perceptions. Yeah. So that's the cause, the first cause for going for refuge. Second cause for going refuge is the faith. The faith here refers to faith in the qualities of the triple gem. Yeah, faith in the qualities of the gem. Why are people buying gold? Because they have faith in the quality of gold that it will be good investment. They're not buying that much aluminium, Even though it too, his value goes up a bit, but they rather buy gold. Likewise, people who have faith in the refuge, they have faith in the qualities of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and all, with all the six. I mentioned 6 causes, 6 reasons why it is a gem. And what kind of faith they have? 3 kinds of faith. First is clear faith. It's a lucid faith. Oh, Buddha, or the Dharma, Sangha. You just have read or you heard a little bit. It really inspires you. So you can call the first lucid or clear faith maybe inspirational faith. It inspires you. And then these 3 faiths are mainly incremental. You could slowly develop from one to another, like the 3 causes. And second is the aspirational faith. But not only you are inspired by the triple gem, but you actually aspire to obtain some of the qualities, of the Dharma, of the practice. So you therefore aspire that so much that you're determined to get the benefit of the refuge. Practice this to get it's like people who realize their insurance policies are expiring midnight and they will frantically try to renew it before midnight. It's just like that. aspirational. You run so that you have a that you will be included. You don't want to be late or something. So take refuge with great not only clarity but the benefit, but aspiring to get it. And the third one is a validated, trustworthy faith, which means validated by your experience. Validated confidence meaning up to most of the time people say, oh, benefit of Dharma, this, they hear about it, but they haven't actually experienced yet. Those who have applied a little bit of the Dharma, they know, and then see how medicine it is, how gem it is, how valuable it is, how refuge it is. When you experience few times, then you have this what they call irreversible faith. Nothing will take away your faith in the triple gem. Your faith is not in people or institution, and the Buddha never encouraged that. It was never encouraged, never was promoted. And so the faith in the triple gem, they have to be Buddha, they have to be Dharma, they have to be Sangha. So faith in the triple gem, when you have applied those little Dharma that you understand, you can see how convincing and irreversible faith you have in the logic of the Dharma and teachings. So that's people are moved, they say. What makes people to go for refuge? They're moved, they're influenced. They are so much positively influenced, they will go for refuge. So that's the second cause. And the third is very, very venerable cause, because people individually fear something for themselves and have faith in something they seek. But the third is very important. Third cause for going for refuge is not only you go for refuge, but you really have compassion for like sentient beings who are like oneself, whose plight is so much unfortunate than like few sentient beings who have refuge, karma, to meet the Dharma. And those who have not, you feel so compassionate. Without Dharma, people don't know how to even practice compassion. It may be written there, but they don't know what is compassion, how do you practice it? Even they practice a lot of compassion without wisdom, compassion, fatigue, compassion, burnout. So they go for refuge out of how to be kind to each other. And when we're kind to each other, when you have someone who's kind to each other, even if you make a lot of mistakes, you have great faith that they will not treat you badly, they will not throw stones at you. People who have faith in the triple gem, but if they throw stones at somebody who makes a little mistake, they haven't got refuge, have they? They don't act like they have refuge. They are stone throwers. People who are compassionate don't throw stones with someone who did a mistake. So those who have refuge take refuge for the purpose of having compassion to sentient beings who have difficult karma and difficult situations. So one reason on top of the fear and faith is compassion. Out of compassion, we deprive it so badly. And so we wanted to take refuge so that we become safer with kind thoughts, kind feelings towards all beings. So compassion is also three. Compassion directed to sentient being. Usually our compassion is all directed to sentient beings. Majority of people don't know that just two other compassion. But those who have refuge and have heard the Dharma might have compassion, not only directed to sentient beings who suffer due to karma and affliction, but also who meditate on the second compassion and nature of suffering. One who has refuge in the Dharma, particularly in the noble truth of cessation, they know that the nature of suffering is not permanent, not truly existent. Yeah. So even the suffering doesn't truly exist or independently exist. Oh, what is the fuss? So when you have that wisdom, then you are not crippled by the overwhelming work you have to do as an act of kindness. But most people's compassion wearies them out because they don't have the compassion that knows the nature of the sufferings. So most people think that suffering is some kind of tyranny, or it will be banished and eradicated. So they are very aggressive to the suffering. Aggression to suffering doesn't eliminate suffering. You have to understand the nature of the suffering. Nature of the suffering is that suffering is the teacher of compassion. But the suffering itself is not permanent, not truly existent. And it is not caused by one thing. It is caused by many things. And then you understand the complex nature of the suffering, and due to that, your reason to go for refuge in the triple gem is not so much Buddha will put his giant hand over you so the rain doesn't fall on your head. It's not that kind of refuge. So the people know the nature of the suffering themselves. So when they understand the suffering, they're necessarily safer from reacting to it or overreacting to it. They will not. And because they know the nature of suffering, they don't see something independently existing out there. They know that it is dependent on many causes and conditions, including our reaction to it. So one who knows how not to react particularly, then learns how to subtract the suffering in no time, or transform the suffering in no time, because you know the nature of the suffering. If you know the nature of the illness, you can develop medicine. If you are merely against the illness but have never understood the nature, you never develop any medicine and you keep dying of it. So the nature of the suffering is when you even sentient beings are difficult, you meditate on the nature of the suffering, which then you say impermanent, it's not them. It's so therefore you don't lump the person with their suffering or bad karma or whatever. You can actually unpack the suffering and the affliction and the person from each other, and then you see that there is no lingering, truly existing suffering or sentient being, for that matter. And the third is the objectless compassion. Compassion is basically, if your compassion is making it difficult for you, overwhelming, and not being able to practice anymore, it's because your compassion is too object-specific. Our compassion has to be objectless. If one is directly focusing on one person and do that, that's a compassion with too much objectivity. So objectless compassion is highest compassion. That means that in reality there is no sentient being who truly exists, let alone the suffering that I have to eliminate. So that is meditating on the emptiness of the person and of the suffering. And this doesn't mean that you are excluding yourself from having to do what you need to do on the level playing field. You still don't avoid or deny the suffering, but your mind is covered, and so there is no object-specific related aversion. Because if you have aversion, the compassion cannot practice. Compassion is meant to eliminate aversion, even to suffering, let alone to the object. When you have no object, how can you have aversion? So it's real refuge. That's the highest refuge. Highest refuge is the emptiness, realization of emptiness. And so these are the three causes for going for refuge. So then the types of refuge. The types of refuge are, here we have the in the first column, object, time, why, and who. So according to Buddhist teachings, there are a few different Buddhist ways of practicing refuge. So from that point of view, and also refuge is not necessarily Buddhist, there's all mundane refuge as well. Some people take refuge, as soon as it rains, they may go, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the I take refuge in Sangha. That people do. People straight away call out triple gem when some mundane things happen. So people do that, because they still are mundane, so let's accept it, So mundane, object, or object might be Buddha, the Dharma. So refuge object might be triple gem, but intention could be ordinary, mundane. Yeah, and some people because of the rain, they'll take refuge in umbrella or raincoat and shelter. So that's mundane. And other people take refuge in authorities. Like many people try to seek asylum to Australia. because they know it's a little bit decent government. There's a law and order. There's a good education and governance, and so on. People deliberately want to come to a country where there is such a fair way of dealing with, and so. Or even those people who live in third world countries, they still go to the highest authority for protection, for a fair dealing, you know. So as the ordinary mundane, and but others extraordinary, that the Buddhists, not Buddhists but theistic religions, all theistic religions also take refuge in God, for instance, as a God up there will secure you a place in heaven. And yeah, they do it. Really believe in that, and they also have a need to believe in that, you know. And they actually go and try and make people believe in that as well. And of course, Buddhists are included, you know. A lot of Buddhists regard Buddha as a god who will help them from being born in lower realms and so on. So you can see the individual attitude could also make that way. But in the Buddhistic sense, you don't take refuge in any of those other things. For temporary reason you will, but with the above intention and motivations, you go for refuge only in the Buddha, the enlightened one, for instance, as an example. And also the duration, time-wise, in the mundane people take refuge in the umbrella only when it's raining. Otherwise, the umbrella will be put in the corner of the room, almost forgotten. You see, so that's the nature. And also people who take refuge in the authority or people in power, they do it only for that purpose or that duration. Not after that, they have no relevance. And most people who are called religious or theistic, they take refuge they believe in God so that they have a next life that is better. They know it doesn't cover this life, even with the faith in the God. They definitely believe it will cover next life. Don't you think? That's the belief system. They go believe it. That's what they believe in that. Now, in Buddhism, it's not. The refuge is not even in the Buddha. It's in the enlightenment. Particularly Mahayana Buddhists' main purpose of embracing the Triple Gem is to attain enlightenment. Even that for the sake of others. So that is and so that means many, many eons, many, many lifetimes. So you know, not a sprint run. It has been long marathon for many uncountable eons until enlightenment attained. And the purpose is not to attain enlightenment for oneself, but until all beings attain enlightenment. Mahayanas would be said. And that's the third reason why people take refuge. Mundane people, when they use the umbrella, to stay dry. That's all. You know. So very temporary. Ordinary people why take refuge, say an authority or friends or whatever, for security, for the sake of them not being have no health care or whatever, if they become part of this as a subject of that country, so that they have a security, you know. Lots of people from third world country or even developing countries is not as fortunate in Australia. Lots of people in Southeast Asia, they're not really third world country. They're pretty much like first world people. But still they don't feel security in there. For a number of reasons, they deliberately take a lot of effort to go overseas so that children actually have a security. Even the communist government's leaders are sending their kids to study overseas so they actually have security, because they know there is no real guaranteed security in that kind of regime. So that is how people use the refuge. And but religious people who believe in God and so heaven and so forth, they accept God, or they're believers because they are free of a bad rebirth in the hell or in the humans or otherwise. From Buddhist point of view, not just hell, but any forms of life. And of course, here in Buddhistic sense, a person wanted to take in refuge in the Triple Gem to gain liberation from suffering. Not another rebirth. Who wants that? So they want the liberation. And then the fourth one is who go for refuge. So most people the person who go for refuge is the first person. Me. So whether it's mundane or self or in the Mahayana, or others, people might pray for each other for giving heaven. So they might call for God for others as well. In the Buddhistic sense, you go for refuge to not so much to secure yourself as a complete person when you gain enlightenment, so that you realize non-duality, that you are nobody actually. So after you have become very safe, you are nobody, which is very highest point of the refugees. Highest point of view is nobody. All suffering comes from being the body. So that's the refuge. Types of refuge. Now the qualities of refuge is the qualities of the objects of refuge. I'll be a bit brief here, because my explanation on the gem basically summarizes all the qualities of triple gem. They are inconceivable, basically. It's a Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. So Buddha is fully enlightened one who has no karma and affliction, who's completely embodiment of compassion, wisdom, and omniscience, and who's not compounded like a created phenomena, and who's completely accomplished, not only achieving freedom from suffering and its causes, but also achieving enlightenment, also causing others to gain enlightenment. So Buddha is completely accomplished, and his qualities are not contrived. So from the point of view of that, Buddha, refuge in the Buddha makes people to attain the qualities. Even the smallest qualities of like Buddha would be huge qualities for those who have refuge in the Buddha. They too will experience the flavor of the refuge in the Buddha. But the one who has a refuge in the Buddha, their whole attitude to suffering, difficulties, tragedies, loss is different. They don't think it's fault of others or themselves. They see that as a great nature of suffering and samsara. And they do not over-personalize their difficulties because they have refuge in the Buddha. And therefore their mind is a little bit awakened. They don't think like that. They accomplish enough not to think like that. They don't think this suffering is contrived or planned or implicated on us by other people. We see that as our own fair share of karma. So because of that, we have refuge. We are safer with those enlightening thoughts. And as a result, a person who has a personal benefit of having refuge in the triple gem, they also have benefit to others. To others, they also, when it regards to other people who are difficult, going through suffering, they will know the nature of their suffering, their karma, and treat them kindly and not punish them, because that's what a person who has a refuge will treat. Person who hasn't got the refuge, they act like another normal deluded person, and they will trample on those who have fallen in front of them. But those who have refuge will know the suffering and the causes of the person. They have huge knowledge of the karma and affliction, and therefore they'll be very kind to them. And they will be very compassionate to them, because their knowledge is omniscience. The Buddha's knowledge is omniscient, and because of that he knows the suffering and its causes of the sentient being who are not aware what they are causing suffering to themselves even. They did those suffering that not knowing they were doing it. And Buddha's compassion, therefore, have such knowledge, and therefore treat them with great compassion. And not only he has compassion, but the normal people, when they practice compassion, their compassion power is weaker and weaker, Buddha's compassion gives the power even more. The power increases. Not by giving. By practicing giving, the compassion is increased. The power of compassion is increased even more. So these 6 are the qualities of the Buddha. The first, knowledge, compassion, and power are mainly qualities of Buddha's mind. Yeah, we haven't specified qualities of Buddha's body, speech, and others, because in another topic, when we talk about enlightenment, then it will come in that more. So, qualities of the Buddha. But Buddha is very rare, as I mentioned, the 6 points up there. Very, very rare. One who has these qualities are very rare. It is said only after thousands and thousands of dark eons, there only appears a one bright eon. It is only in that bright eon may a Buddha come. So the chances of people being born in an eon when the Buddha has come is very, very slim. And having faith in that is even slimmer. And being able to meet Dharma is even slimmer, And people who have faith in the Dharma is very, very few. Very, very few. Very, very few. And among those who have faith, most are just like cultural faith. Most are just like biased. They think being Buddhists are good, but they don't know the qualities of Buddha really. Oh, they don't really know the value of the Buddha as much. Qualities of Buddha's compassion, wisdom, and power. Majority of people don't know that. So the Buddha is very rare, but not only that, people who find refuge to the Buddha is very, very rare. And of course, we might see Buddhist population increasing or something like that in the newspaper, but they have no idea what they're talking about. They're not talking about how many alcoholics are increasing, how many murders are increasing, how many people have this. Of course, sometimes you only report whatever you know. What you don't know, what you not when you're not reporting. So those who have refuge is very, very rare. Very, very rare, And those who have refuge, also those who really realize it and then feel saved by their practice is even so. They refuge for a few years, they feel safe. All of a sudden they slip out. They no longer feel safe. You see, their refuge isn't, they haven't really rediscovered the Buddha as much as they have. It's very rare. So Buddha, to be able to find refuge in the Buddha, and not only Buddha is rare, those who recognize it and realize it and cherish it, is even rarer. So that's why qualities of refuge. One who actually finds his or her mind willing to embrace and accept the Buddha is the best thing that has ever happened in all the lives. It wouldn't have happened many lives, but it does happen when actually one recognizes that within one's own heart, as if it's drawn in the heart. So the qualities of Buddha, when you read, it's inconceivable qualities of Buddha. And if you get to know a little bit of it, your whole mind feels enriched as the ornaments. It becomes beauty. Whatever aspect of your life crumble into pieces, but one who has refuge doesn't act as if they are deprived of love or kindness or compassion of the teachings. That becomes the most pertinent thing they do. Then the qualities of the objects of refuge of Dharma is even rarer. Dharma only occurs when the Buddha comes. So first we have to get the Buddha coming. The Buddha there, but people are not seeking Dharma. What are you going to do? See? People were meeting Buddha, but they're walking past him, There were such people. There are Buddhists around, the people deliberately don't want to go there. So the people who actually recognize Dharma's refugeness is even fewer, So it's rare, not only Dharma is rare and profound and vast, but those who actually possess it and have refuge and practice it is even fewer. And because of that, it is even more valuable. When you do practice, it is most liberating, most distinct flavor. It is so sweet that is not comparable to brown sugar. It is not comparable to chocolate. It is not comparable to any kind of drinks, any kind of places you have, any kind of possessions you have. It's not comparable. That's what this Dharma is inconceivable, And when you have the refuge, of course, So, inconceivable. Dharma is inconceivable. And Dharma is non-duality. Non-duality means it's ones who have discovered the inconceivability of Dharma is not a thing out there like a book or something. Dharma is inseparable from the person who knows its virtue. It almost became your mainstream. It has now got you. It has actually taken over your heart and it's become non-dual. It's not partible thing. You can't leave it behind. It has become non-dual. It has become blessed. You are blessed now. As soon as you have received the Dharma, and it's inconceivable, you have fathomed the Dharma, it is now non-dual. It is not a thought. It becomes non-conceptual Dharma. Non-conceptual Dharma, meaning, it is not this is Dharma, that is not Dharma, not that kind of thing. Dharma basically is alleviation of suffering. When you are in the state of Dharma, your sufferings are naturally useful and naturally recovered. You naturally recover from the suffering. And whenever you suffer, the Dharma makes the suffering even more sacred. And it becomes a gift. Because even in ordinary ill health situation, people say, oh, that illness in the family brought blessings. Means they learn to practice kindness to each other, be gentle and giving. And Dharma does exactly that. So even your suffering becomes a cause of use, great meaningful. So it's not a kind of intellectual, conceptual thing. It is beyond thought. Dharma is beyond thought, beyond writings, beyond books, beyond terminology. That's a literal Dharma is one thing, but the realization of Dharma definitely is beyond that. So that's what is path. Dharma has a path and cessation. Cessation is when a person practices how do you know you have refuge? If you have refuge and you realize the cessation level, not just the path level, cessation level, it has purified your heart. It is purifying your heart. It is purifying your thoughts. It is purifying your perceptions. It's purifying your way of looking things. It just makes everything purifiable, There's not a single stain that it doesn't wash. So it's not just oil remover. Or it removes all stains, basically. No matter what harm people have caused you, Dharma is impeccable antidote for that. Even if it's self-harm, Dharma is impeccable remedy for that. So there isn't any particular thing to which Dharma does not purify. Even the terrible people like Angulimala, who murderer of 1,000 people, even he turned into saint once who met the Dharma. Even Milarepa, Tibetan murderer, I should say, and he turned to sainthood after meeting the Dharma. Ashoka, the black king. Ashoka is not black, but he was terrible, evil king. He just killed so many thousands of people everywhere. India ruled everywhere. People heard of him like he was treated like the terrible, evil one. But once he met the Dharma, he completely became pacified. He became the Dharma Ashoka. Then he became the Dharma king of India. See? It totally changes people. And it clarifies the mind. It's so clear and logical, and anyone who has a sensible mind see the Dharma for themselves. It's not about believing and following anymore. Dharma people are not followers. Please don't say that. If you say that, you don't understand Dharma. We are followers, like a flock that doesn't know what to say or do. People who understand Dharma are not just following some vague leader. They know what Dharma is. It totally clarifies. It's like water purifying tablet. Put in the water, whole water is pure. Once you understand Dharma, it changes you. Undrinkable water becomes drinkable. As simple as that. Well, people like Angulimala was not accepted by anybody. Everybody wanted to throw a stone at him. But once he turned into Dharma and dropped his violence, and he became a venerable Angulimala. You see? It's magic. So this is what I mean by when you're cultivating, going from last week's topic, when you practice Dharma, you're cultivating Buddha nature. Then your Buddha nature is not kept in the jar. It is put in the soil. It's now growing and dropping its seedness and then germinating, sprouting and flowering and not to become just one for the sake of one, but millions of them. And then the seed of the Dharma spread, the purity and clarity. Why people are every day these days, lots of people are drawing in teachings from Buddhist teaching. It is so clear, it is so obvious, so logical. It is so good for anybody who has a mind. To just to read a few lines, it will help them. It will, if they read in the afternoon will be good. If in the morning will be good. If in the evening will be good. Whole year will be good. Choice is ours. So it is so clarifying. It purifies everything, and it's an antidote to suffering, to difficulties, whatever it is. It is never ineffective antidote. It's the panacea I'm talking about. Dharma is the panacea. It's the sole dharma, sole medicine for all ills, all sicknesses. So Buddha is the one who taught the Dharma, who realized Dharma. That's why the Buddha and Dharma are not two separate things. Buddha is the one who realized Dharma and taught the Dharma. And therefore Buddha is both Buddha and the Dharma. When Buddha first taught, there was only Buddha gem. When he didn't teach, there was people didn't even know he's a Buddha. But only when he taught Dharma, then the Buddha gem was discovered. But when Buddha didn't teach, there was no Sangha. When he taught the Dharma, from the Buddha, there comes Dharma, and the people who practice Dharma, then the Sangha. So that's what the sequence of why is the triple gem in that order, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Yeah. Order of what came first, and as a result of which came second, and so on. And so the Sangha is exalted Sangha. Yeah? Exalted Sangha are those who are free from suffering and karma and affliction, free definitely from samsara, who have no gross affliction and karma. They are arhats, minimum arhats, bodhisattvas necessarily. So they are enlightened ones. They are not just ordinary conventional people in robes. It's possible people who are not in robes also can be in that state, but it is exalted. They are saint. Like in Christian you can call saint. In Buddhism we call arhats. So these are very few. During Buddha's time there were many. Because everybody became arhats. Because they heard from the mouth of the Buddha. And then when they listen to the Buddha, that's what happens. And so Sangha is therefore the holy community, who are holy means bonded together by the common bond with the Dharma. And therefore, and their qualities are awareness and liberation. The Sanghas are those who understand Dharma, not just about things as it appears, but things as it is. That's the awareness. Because most people think, this is the things that appears. So Sanghas, liberated Sanghas knows also those which appears as not as it is, not as it appears, but as it is. What is as it is? They know everything is empty of inherent existence. And so therefore their way of treating with everything is a lot more enlightened because they have awareness to know that. So that's the knowing as it is. Of course they know as it appears on a relative sentient being's level of consciousness, and knowing as it appears, and because of whatever appears to different people, they see that from their angle, their point of view, their perspective, their aptitude, their predisposition may see that. A father will see you as a son, your brother will see you as a brother, your neighbor will see you not as a son or a brother. And so you can see there is nothing that appears to identical to everybody. Yeah? So that nevertheless, if somebody calls his son a son, you can accept that. We will not argue with him for the sake of... We wouldn't say, no, your son is emptiness. Even though the Sanghas will stay in that state of mind. Oh, poor thing. He's empty, but he thinks son. But then he's really carrying on about these things. Oh, poor thing. Then feel a ray of compassion. So Sanghas have this awareness to stay in that level of meditation, not just as it is, but also as it appears. And then Sanghas are not only objective knowers, but subjective knowers. Not only they know the sentient beings, but they also know they have got Gorangrik, means self-cognition. They can see that even they themselves don't exist. They're not some special beings who exist. They're all things that non-exist. Not that. They also see even themselves don't really exist inherently, independently. So sanghas are basically liberated. Sanghas don't take offense. Sanghas take all blames, no problem. Because they know the things. They know there is no real blame. They truly exist. So never mind. They have resilience, and they because they're not full of self, and they are beyond that. So the sangha has the awareness, and those sangha who has these qualities benefits lots of ordinary people because they don't have direct access to the Buddha, the Dharma. Only by meeting a sangha, then people meet the Dharma, and then people know about the Buddha. So therefore, sanghas who are exalted, of course, are completely liberated. But even those who are conventional sanghas, who are training on the path, maybe 10, 15, you will see some degree of liberation in their mind that is kind of like liberated from attachment to worldly things, or attachment to pride or self or grasping, and obstruction, obstruction to subtle things, and they will. It doesn't take up their mind about that, and they are liberated from thought of me, the inferior attitude for my status or my purpose or my name, or such are not in the mind of the sangha. Sanghas are surpassed, liberated from all these three, and who have awareness of all the things as it is. So the qualities of triple gem are much more clearly elucidated in a later section in the text. But I thought it would be useful tonight to do a refuge practice. The refuge practice is what the topic is refuge. How do Buddhists do the refuge? And the Buddhists in general, and particularly Tibetan Buddhists, do the refuge as a meditation, sometimes as a what I call preliminary to other meditation. They will do the short chanting at the beginning and then move to other things. But other times they can do the meditation on refuge as the main meditation. That is the meditation. So here, that's what we're going to do. And if, for the sake of your knowing, the refuge as a meditation practice is a very important in all Buddhist tradition. And some traditions may chant the refuge only 3 times, but even then they never would do anything without refuge doing first. So in Buddhist meditation, when people say Buddham Saranam Gacchami, like in Theravada tradition, that's what everybody says. I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. So that they say that. But the main thing during that is the meditation. They join their hands together. They don't show the feet towards the shrine. They really do the most respectful manner, whichever their culture has adopted. You can see that the more, however well educated they are, that much they will be expressing their deepest faith in the qualities, fear in the samsara and their karma, and compassion to fellow sentient beings in their life. For their sake, they actually join the palms in order to renew their refuge in the Buddha, if they are doing it like a practice. All those who have not taken refuge before deliberately go for refuge as a ceremony. All those who have done both then do that as a main practice. So here what we're going to do is as a main practice. This is a practice we do here on Wednesday nights and also on Sunday mornings. Because that's what Buddhist centers and Buddhist practitioners do. They have a number of meditation practices, and one of them is refuge. But most people think, refuge, and when is the meditation? As a meditation is something different. But actually, refuge can be meditation and refuge together. So here we're going to do that to give you a sample, an experience of doing the refuge. What we're going to do is as we chant through these, what it involves is you visualize our place transforms into a vast celestial sanctuary that is conducive, safe sanctuary where everybody is safe. And there you invite all beings, particularly your father and mother and all the sentient beings, particularly towards whom we have some karmic obstacles, towards whom we have an enmity or ill will, or towards some we get too attached or too possessive and causing a lot of sufferings. This is not refuge. This is not safe for each other. So one brings everyone together, and those, not just personal ones, all sentient beings come together. So that's the people who go for refuge, yeah? So you visualize that. Then you visualize the refuge object, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Arhats, Dharma, even Dharma also in form of scriptures. All the other pantheon of enlightened ones, all visualize in the space above, adding to the ambience of a celestial sanctuary, yeah? So that's the objects of refuge, those who go for refuge. Then the motivation is fear, faith, and compassion. These three, mixture of these fear, faith, and compassion must be aroused. And then actually going for refuge is done physically in a very prayerful, at least in this kind of posture like this. Or some people will get up and do many prostration while saying the refuge prayer. So it just question is how moved you are. Get out of the seat and just go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Sometimes it might be just a bit of a show, So I've got to make sure that it isn't, So just do it for sake of all beings, for a very rightful purposes. We were talking about moved, caused by faith, caused by fear and compassion. And you wouldn't mind doing anything to show your utmost love or respect to the Buddha. Not that Buddha needs it, but we feel so useful to purify our karma. Physically, we touch our forehead and mouth and heart. These are the problem spots. Problem spots. Lots of karma comes out of this. So we bless this. Lots of karma comes from the body. Lots of karma comes from the heart with a lot of emotional issues. So we touch these joint hands and on venerating the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. We bless the body, speech, and mind, every sentient being. We drop all harm, ill will, and then we go down. So that's when you do the prostration. For the sake of, we'll do some of that as well. So you physically do the refuge, verbally recite the prayer, mentally just feel mixture of faith moving you, yeah? And fearful of suffering and karma being created otherwise. So may this change my karma. May this change my habit. Please bless my body, speech, and mind. And then touch your two hands and knees, forehead on the floor. Surrender the afflictions, because they are the one causing the bad karma to be created. So in this way, the refuge practice becomes a meditation. Meditation during which you use a physical, verbal, mental energy. It's analytical, definitely. Analytical, but also very, very devotional. Very, very gracefully you should do it. Mindfully prostrate, mindfully recite, mindfully feel deep feelings, and mindfully think that everyone around you, including your mom and dad, who says, "Where did you bring me, my dear?" And you say, "Oh, Dad, it's really good for you and me and everybody. Come on, just join us." And they're all joining. Couldn't believe. It's what a love, pleasure to share the practice with all sentient beings. May their karma and may their defilements be purified by the refuge. You become as inclusive as possible, holistic as a purpose, and then join together, do the practice. So physically, verbally, and mentally, emotionally. And don't get distracted by things, or just or kind of dull or feeling like lazy and don't want to do. That's not meditation. So just do 5. If you do happily 5, that's good. Don't do 10 unhappily. Do 5 happily or 21 happily and then sit down. If you want happy to do few hundred, you can go for it too. It's all free, all free. The more people do, more they become safer, because there are a lot of karma to drop, a lot of karma to wash. Even one night, if you don't brush your mouth, you smell. That's just the oral order of not being brushed the teeth. That we have talked a lot of karma of speech, bad karma of mouth, bad karma of thoughts, and so you do this again and again and do that. That's a refuge as an analytical meditation. During that time, you are doing this as all the enlightened beings through the omniscience, through the infinite compassion and wisdom. They're all sitting there for you and all beings. You've got to have faith. You've got to believe in that. And if you do believe and do it, you will feel the benefit of it. The feeling of what changes that you brought in your mind and so on. So in this way, we'll chant this section on first page. Then on the next page, we chant together that first paragraph. And then the second paragraph is where you do the refuge and prostration together. So we'll do that, just a few of those, give you a sample of it. Because it may look like when you're onlooker watching people do, looks like they're deluded. But if you if you do it, it's not a cultural thing. It's really changing you. It is making you very present. It makes you very relevant. Oh, I really can do this. This is really physically very exercising. Mentally, it's really, really useful. And emotionally, it is really makes us to open heal these and channels. And then you are doing also for every sentient being, everybody next to you. You really have some issues with people in your mind. You don't know how to reconcile with these people. Just bring them all in the refuge. Throw all the problems in the refuge. Throw all the problems in the refuge practice. And I'm sure because your intention is altruistic for the benefit of all, and then that becomes a refuge practice. During this, you don't do the number of times just for the sake of building the number. Do it reasonable number, but very thoughtful, mindful, undistracted. And then you conclude the refuge by sitting down. And then as a result of you and everybody doing refuge so many times, finally you supplicate the refuge object, which we have here. Then all the refuge object bless everyone. And everyone, you should witness the effect. And how everybody is transformed into rainbows. And they don't exist anymore, thank goodness. All of their problems dissolve. And finally, just you alone remain, and then how about me type of thing. Then all the refuge object dissolves into light. This is very Buddhist psychology here. It's all your mind, So if you create all of that, and then it's all come back to your mind, and then there's nothing. All of the enlightened one dissolve into you, and you also dissolve into just clear light. And then the object's refuge, inseparable, and stay in that for a little while. So that way the whole refuge becomes a complete meditation. So that's what we're going to do. We got a bit of time, that's good. So you have the text here, you join your hands, and as we chant, you try to, whatever meaning that comes from the text, just try to imagine and feel the company of everybody, feel the presence of everyone, arouse the emotions. And once you have in that state, then we do the refuge. The blessed God design Aneta let him by trees and fly Majeba singers Dharma Arembo cannot be risen and Eva blossom fallen Adonde, pure amor. Smiling jaw, before him, said the Glowers of Ivajadara on the front, Petra the Yeda on the right, Petra the Buddha behind the scripture, enlightened to hell, can the Bodhisattva in household, the women as evil, Guru Yi, the Buddha Shavaga, Bodhisattva Kayaka Buddha, Virajagene Gajavaga, Wadi Refugee my parents and I stood before them with the there as a uniform, all the refuge enlightenment, complete devotion of in the most holy Guru, who embodies the qualities and deeds, the body, voice, and mind, all the Tathagatas, abide in the 10 directions 3 times, souls of 84,000 discourses of the Dharma, master of all noble assemblies, guide all sentient beings, equal to limitless space, from this time forth, until lessons enlightenment reach steadfastly. Take refuge in the glory of the root Guru and holy master of the lineage. Take refuge in blessed accomplished Buddha. Take refuge in holy teaching. Take refuge in noble assemblies. Take refuge in glory of Guru and holy master lineage. Take refuge in blessed accomplished Buddhas. Take refuge in holy teaching. Take refuge in noble assemblies. Take refuge in glory of Guru and holy master lineage. Take refuge in blessed accomplished Buddhas. Take refuge in holy teaching. Take refuge in noble assemblies. So in this way, when you recite the refuge prayer, you're constantly reminding the qualities of the Buddha when you say glorious root Guru and holy master lineage, blessed accomplished Buddhas. So you try to bring to your attention, like in meditation, the qualities of the Buddha that is inspiring you, and therefore you go for refuge in the Buddha. So likewise, when you say the specific qualities of each of the objects of refuge, I take refuge in holy teachings, that you really know the Dharma is so precious, so sacred, and it teaches us so much and constantly is teaching us. It's not only teaching when you're listening, it's teaching us all the time when you remember the Dharma. It's never a break when we remember. So with such sentiment of amazing, precious thing that when you turn to Dharma, then how much safer we are. When we turn away from Dharma, how much vulnerable we are. as soon as we turn to Dharma, how much we are kinder towards everyone, how much more careful we are, and so on. So you try to feel. Meditation is try to evoke this experience, because meditation is an experience, Even sitting there quietly, if you don't have experience, you're just falling asleep, it's another sleep. It's to waken us up, so to arouse these emotions of joy and faith and devotion, and then moving your body and feeling and language and this body effort. So in this way, the refuge is practiced by reciting this mantra, with refuge formula, we call it refuge formula, and it is a mantra is often an aid of meditation. It helps to keep the mind focused. Mantra means to mental focus. So it's protected from wavering or wandering off. So that's why repetition of the mantra, Buddha triple gem, again and again, while doing the mindful prostration, becomes a form of active meditation. Since this may be the first time that you will be asked to join in the prostration, you will make it as meditative as possible, not necessarily doing it without knowing, or just try to feel the refuge. When you do the refuge, then you can feel. It's nothing like experiencing, employing our body, speech, mind to experience the refuge. For the sake of our class, so we were going to get up and do a few prostrations mindfully in your own time. If you don't have space or something, you just can do like this, crown and the forehead and throat and the heart. So each time you do, you join your class prayers to honor the Buddha's enlightenment. From your body, you confess all the negative karma of the body that we have committed, and pardon anybody's wrongdoing of the body. May all be blessed. And then you touch on your throat and mouth. I confess, negative karma committed by my speech. I take refuge in the Dharma to bless my speech. May all beings speak kindly to each other. And then touch the heart. I take refuge in the Sangha. From my depth of my heart, I confess all my ill will and resentment, wrong views, and so on. Please heal me and bless me with goodwill and forgiveness and wisdom. So with this, you touch those places. Then part your two hands and put the two hands and knees, forehead gracefully on the floor. As these things touches the floor, imagine you surrender all the karma and afflictions, dropping them, so that when you rise up, you're slightly more safer without the stains. And do the next one even more carefully, while imagine that everybody else next to you are just copying you, and they too receive benefit. They say, "Thank you for showing me. That was so good. Oh, thank you. Can you do that next time with me too?" "Yes, of course." With that kind of purposefulness, it's meditation, isn't it? Your mind is very, very focused. And do it mindfully. We won't do many, but just few for you to show for the sake of this. And then, of course, when people know the practice, this as a meditation, then can learn to do that in the group, more specific other sessions where we do this a bit more, or on your own even. So of course, I'm sure some of you are practicing already. So we'll do this for a few minutes and you make some space. So you mindfully stand upright, keep your back straight, and each time you finish, you get up as straight as you can, and then reform your refuge-going attitude and visualize and imagine and feel and do and know and see all as mindfully as you can. So we do this a few times. So these are very, very traditional Buddhist practice. It's all over the Buddhist countries. In China and Japan, they call 3-step, 1 bow. They walk around the circle. They walk 3 steps and then 1 bow down. In Tibet, they do miles. People go from all the way from East Tibet, go all the way, and it purifies a lot of the negative karma, and they arouse their faith in the teachings, and they become very meditative. They don't mind what flow, red, whether they're wet or dry, or they just don't mind. They have a bit of apron they wear, and form of devotion. Yeah.
And normally it's a full length prostration.
Yeah.
We don't have the room here, but normally you lie flat on the ground and you put your hands out.
Yeah. When you truly have practice space, then you create a prostration board. So it's a little bit easier to do on a board that you can slide, because if you do full length, you have to slide on the floor, and carpet's not good. So everybody got a wooden plank. It's usually 2 feet wide, maybe 6.5 feet long, depending on your height. And then you do this, and then usually they have a glove, little pad they put underhand, and then it goes very quickly. And then once you get really good at doing that as a reasonable speed with mindfulness, it is most purificatory to do. So people do that as a man meditation. They keep thinking of all the people doing with them, supporting each other, and with that mindfulness. And then in the presence of all the enlightened ones before them, and then do that as a meditation. Very, very pure, powerful to purify your karma of the body, karma of your speech, and karma of your emotions. It makes you very soft. The whole purpose of refuge is to overcome pride. It's an antidote to pride and ego. Yeah. Yeah.
Does it matter which way you face when you're doing your prostration?
If you have a shrine like this, you face that. Otherwise, you can do it in the veranda, or you can do your wherever you have. Like in India, monasteries, they always do around big stupas. Everybody faces the stupas. And because stupa has many circumambulatory paths, people are prostrating from all 10 directions. All 10 directions. And but if you are doing at home, you can create a little shrine, and you usually do it facing towards that, It's a very good practice. First you learn like we are doing, and do with others. And once you gain some good experience of doing it, then you do it regularly, you will feel what a powerful meditation is. Particularly people who can't sit still and cannot meditate very well. They go dull and sink and deluded, and they get bored. With this, you can't do that. We all have everybody doing it with you. You can't be bored. They're all following you. They're all using you as a model. So you carry that responsibility, and then do it very mindfully. And maybe at least a reasonable number of time every day. It's very good discipline to practice. It's the most foundation, the most fundamental to have these foundation meditations. Okay, so after you have done the refuge and prostration, as many as you're able to do, so even those people who can't do because of their health and their body, and sometimes due to ill health and age, and you can still do this while seated. While seated, you can do that. Recite the refuge prayers and do this, and because you still imagine your body multiplies as many beings and all prostrating, even though you physically you cannot do, doesn't mean it's a kind of a obstacle. You can still do it even more meaningfully as a meditation. So once you have done as many as you have, then you do this supplication prayer, and then followed by the dissolution. The wording here are pretty self-explanatory, so we will read through that and then pause with the meditation. So, in the Guru and the three precious gems, I bow down and take refuge. May you bless my mind's dream. O Bele Guru and Buddha, Choedak and each and every being. Bless my mind, the Dharma. Bless me to read the path of Dharma. Sweep away delusions on the path. And delusions don't have wisdom. Bless me the irreligious does it. Bless me that I will compassion. May I practice true bodhicitta, and may I Buddha Light shine forth from the refuge of literature, perfect Bilmana Dhamma Gaya Body Rembola Deliver the refuge of your life. Veda Guru dissolves in life. It is a double of blue light. Enter my God, bless in my mind. Consider that the clarity of mind is the Sangha, and the aspects of holy Dharma. The combination of the two is the Buddha, and it's the nature which is non-differentiable free is the Guru. For as long as possible, meditate on this. So in this way, after you finish the refuge actual recitation, then you do the supplications. After you make the supplication, which is actually requesting the triple gem ultimately to bless your body, speech and mind, which means if you have refuge, then your body is blessed to do no harmful things, no violent things, no destructive things. Or your speech is not using harmful, harsh, divisive, and negative things. Your mind is so kind that you don't develop ill will and resentment and anger and all that, but rather develop goodwill, rather develop kindness and forgiveness. So when we say, please bless body, speech, and mind, that's your gist of the request. After you have made the request, then the enlightened ones send rays of light, as the saying here, rays of light shines from the enlightened ones, then lifts, unveils all sentient beings who are Buddhas. Until now, all sentient beings are wearing these funny-looking veils, veils of karma and afflictions in their person. And so that they lift the veils of what you call gross obscuration of karma and afflictions, and subtle obscuration of knowledge, thinkings I'm real. All those wrong views are lifted like cataract, and then as a result of that, everybody becomes rainbow, and they dissolve. The mind becomes like fully developed, fully realized Buddha nature. They become enlightened one. And you too, and everyone, enlightened one also dissolve into light, finally dissolve into you, and that dissolves your ordinariness, and you too become realized the cultivated Buddha nature, which means the clarity of your mind is the Sangha. Ultimately, your Sangha is not some object there to worship, but rather your mind's clarity. That is the ultimate Sangha. And when you look at the clarity, which means the knowing nature of your mind, and that knowing nature of mind is not a form or color, or you can't measure or touch, it's empty. So that emptiness of the mind is the ultimate Dharma. Even the the clarity and emptiness of the mind are not separable, like fire and its heat, Likewise, the clarity and emptiness are both inseparable characteristic of the mind. So therefore, the non-duality of clarity and emptiness is the Buddha. So Buddha is not a long ear-lobbed Indian. Buddha is one who realized the nature of the mind. It may also appear as a tall Australian, or whatever, just the average Australian person, But deep down, it's clarity and emptiness. A union of that is the real Buddha. So that is the essence. That's the ultimate refuge. Beautiful meditation. And the nature of all of these things is the non-differentiation. You can't separate which is Buddha, which is Dharma, which is Sangha, which is you. And that is the Guru. Guru is not people worshipping. Guru is not people worshipping. It's actually dissolve ego. And they understand the nature of our mind, which is not different from the mind of the Buddha. That is the true Guru. So that's what it says. Its nature, which is non-differential of the three, is the Guru. For as long as possible, meditate on that. So that's ultimate refuge. So you stay there for whatever length of time. Yeah.
So if we're trying to realize that all is non-existent and empty, is that to say that samsara is an illusion?
Yeah, ultimately, yes.
And so to achieve Buddha nature, is that to be outside samsara and to be what we were before samsara?
You mean Buddha nature? No. So if it's cultivated Buddha nature, you can still conventionally manifest it in samsara, but still your reason to exist is for the benefit of others. And so not for us to leave before everybody goes. That's not the purpose. But cultivated Buddha nature is not retire into emptiness. It may change the form or shape, but it has manifest in different ways to help others who haven't realized Buddha nature to do that.
So those who have Buddha nature still exist, but not in the way that we do.
That's right. All sentient beings have Buddha nature, but they're not aware of it. And particularly non-human beings have no idea that they have Buddha nature. Even majority of human beings don't know they have Buddha nature. They're told they have original sin. And that makes most people feel very bad. So even in the Buddhist teaching, not all Buddhists say Buddha nature. Only Mahayanas talk about Buddha nature beforehand. Otherwise they say you should renounce everything, you should do this. So the teaching comes from different angle. The Mahayana comes from the idea that everybody is equal, all have Buddha nature. It is temporarily covered by the obscurations. And once these obscurations be removed, we are all light, we are all, Buddhas, we are all divine, we are all basically part of the same thing. So that approach is very uniquely Mahayana Buddhist. Other Buddhists have beautiful practices just like similar, but they don't emphasize everybody having Buddha nature. They may emphasize maybe renunciation, maybe sorrow and giving up everything, so forth. In Mahayana they taught it, but they don't use that as the launching pad. They talk about existence of Buddha nature as very positively try to encourage everybody, and therefore when you have that in mind, and then you know, this person too has Buddha nature. I shouldn't, look down upon them, put down on them. They too have many qualities I can't witness due to my own lack of awareness. So therefore, we in one way, Mahayanas use everybody is one's mother. That's like saying everybody has Buddha nature. But if you see everybody as a mother, you straight away will change what you do to them. It's like that. If you know that everybody has Buddha nature, you say, how dare I'm so negative and critical to this person. They too have Buddha nature, so I should not do this. So it helps us to withdraw our wrong views quickly. And in that way, we cultivate Buddha nature, awakening of it much more quickly. Yeah. So this brings us to the conclusion of the next page, page 3, where we have got these 20 analogies of the triple gem, which you will have time to read. I will not go over those beautiful. These are from one sutra. It talks about what the Buddha is, what Dharma is, what Sangha is, analogously. For instance, the first one says Buddha is like the full moon, and the Dharma is the moon's effulgence, moon's light, and Sangha is the world that is inspired, world that is inspired by the light, yeah, and with happiness. So in this way, those 20 analogies, and then the benefit of refuge is enormous. It's like you have temporary benefit of not even being touched and harmed by difficulties as you normally they used to do. You don't become easy victim of difficulties. You accept them as karma, and you exhaust them as a result of it. When we don't have refuge, we blame and we push the karma back to somebody only to make it many times worse. So temporal benefit of refuge is person who has refuge, they would not retaliate. They would not be so righteous and act like they have no dharma. Because they have dharma, they will be reminded of themselves how to be kind to those who are not coping well in life in samsara. So their main practice is kindness to sentient beings. And so it is also a commitment, to practice kindness to each other above all else. The question isn't who's right and who's wrong, but how to be kind, even the one who's wrong. And so when we say refuge, means that's what the refuge means, temporary benefit. Of course, it is also foundation of your all other meditation practices. No practice of prayer begins without refuge prayer. And so that all the practices, basis of foundation is refuge. And then ultimate benefit of refuge is enlightenment itself. Those who have not gone for refuge in the triple gem cannot gain enlightenment, because it's only the correct path is only shown through one's own meditation, not blind faith. So only by realizing the path, then one attains enlightenment. To realize the path, one has to enter the path. To enter the path, one has to meet the Sangha. By meeting the Sangha, one truly knows what Dharma is, and then one will attain Buddhahood. So that's why ultimate attainment of enlightenment comes from refuge. And then the commitment is for those who have gone for refuge in the Buddha's teachings, formally speaking. As a result of that, having gone to refuge, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, for each of the three refuge objects, they have 3 things they do, 3 things they abstain. So that is as a result of taking refuge in the Buddha, one should learn to associate with the positive and noble friends, spiritual friends, not to let oneself go under the influence of those who are negative, who are destructive, who knows, because one is not safe when you become friends with them. Their influence is too bad for you. So you know exactly how to avoid the kind of a bad place or bad companion, but actually talk and be with people who are really strong in Dharma, and they are, as a result of that, you will benefit. And what to abstain by going for refuge in Buddha is not pay no respect to worldly God. Pay no world respect is probably a bit of an understatement. Usually it's not accepting the notion of creation. That's a very strong Buddhist view. Buddhists are very attached about that view, so to speak. Very, very strong about that, so because they said that God didn't create it. This poor God, don't put him there. It's not created by God at all, created by our own karma and mind. And that's why we can do something about it, And so therefore, there's no acceptance of as a person is a Buddhist. Nowadays most people say Buddhists are atheists. They understand something there. At least something. Second is, after going for refuge Dharma, what one should practice is listen to the Dharma, study the Dharma, practice the Dharma, read about it, help to each other, others to discover the Dharma. That is the commitment to practice after refuge the Dharma. And of course, mostly, And then what one should abstain is This to abstain from harming any sentient beings, either directly or indirectly, intentionally. One should learn to adopt a way how to minimize harm, particularly to the living being's life. Harming directly, if all at all costs. And then, having taken refuge in Sangha, one should read the Dharma, practice the Dharma like influence of the Sangha would have taught you, and then learn to practice the Dharma. That even those who are newer than you, to them, you are also a little bit of senior of a Sangha to help them, isn't it? And they also gain benefit from you. So that, like as you are dependent on senior Sanghas and influence, we also could be, if our practice is good, then we too can pass the torch to others to meet the Dharma. So therefore, practice Dharma as a commitment. Those who do daily prayers and meditations, they become very valuable future teachers or helpers for the Dharma. If nobody practices, everybody become intellectualist, and there is no Sangha. There is no Sangha. Books in library is not. It's just academic. There's no living Dharma. So for the sake of living Dharma, people must practice the teachings, both formal practices as well as informal practice. Mostly formal practices are what we call people who practice the Dharma, either in form of traditional practices or prayers, however distinct they are, separate or different they are, one keeps them for the sake of not losing the good tradition of the practices. So the practicing Dharma, and avoid those who are anti-Dharma, those who are acting anti-Dharma and deliberately trying to destroy Dharma. One should learn to not fall under the influence of theirs. So these are just 6 very general precepts of refuge. 3 things to do, 3 things to drop. And then, just to conclude here, traditionally, when a person formally understands refuge and are drawn to the idea of going for refuge, they actually go through a ceremony. And they formally go through refuge ceremony. The refuge ceremony takes very, very short one. Ceremony of triple transformation. The person transforms physically, they have a life change. They have a life change by having their hair cut. Turf of hair is cut and over to the Buddha as a symbol. And a name is given to identify that they have symbolized, they have changed. And then the meaning is from then onwards, person must then see what does this mean to be as a Buddhist. And then if difficult karma ripens, he sees that as an exhaustion of past karma. He doesn't see that as a curse or bad thing by others. And that's a refuge. Because he has refuge, therefore it's very meaningful. And a person who has refuge should think like that. And also a person who get harmed or attacked or whatever he feels, he doesn't blame the people, He does feel sorry for them. They too are driven by the karma, like I am. We have a lot of unfinished karma from the past. So I must be very careful with them because I'm already bad enough to instigate them. So I must not exacerbate this by overreaction and reaction. So therefore we are safer to them because we don't retaliate, we don't take arms, we don't punish them just because they are like that. We feel compassion that they are driven by karma like that. And so that means the refuge always changes what you think, what you do, or how do you respond, and how you don't respond. So then the refuge is a way of life. It's not a ritual, not just a prayer. And also with the refuge with Sangha meaning of real Sangha is that every sentient being is a Sangha. Particularly those who give you a hard time. They teach you so much. They're real Sangha. They are the soldiers of Sangha. They are waking you up. So the people who we associate with difficulties, they actually are the real Sanghas teaching us how to practice. They are practice tolerance with this person. Teachers give you just theoretical guidance, practice tolerance, practice kindness. But he never makes you to practice tolerance. he finish on time and he make you go and say thank you and also just joking. The real people who make you practice Dharma is the people who really gets your nerves. So they are the real sanghas. That is the meaning here. If you can understand, you have to try to see the value of their existence in our life rather than thinking they are the problem. One who has refuge and tend to be able to think like that because they change their perception. So that's the meaning. Then actual refuge in the practice refuge in the Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana three vehicle differs slightly. Even though all take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. For instance, in Theravada, the refuge objects are Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Yeah? And when they take refuge in the Sangha, their Sangha is Arhat. They don't think of bodhisattvas. So no ordinary monk and nun are arhats. They are Sangha members. They're not Sangha as a Arya Sangha. Arya Sangha is they are already arhats. They have to be reach arhathood. So that's a level of. So that's that. Mahayana take refuge in the triple gem. Particularly Mahayana Sanghas are bodhisattvas, as well as arhats. Yeah, they don't exclude arhats, but on top of the arhat, they also have bodhisattvas. So the Mahayana have, therefore, what you call the asangas. They are householder and ordained. Ordained are the arhats. Householder are the bodhisattvas. So that's a slight difference. And the other difference is the Vajrayana. When we take refuge, on top of the triple gem, we have the gurus, yidams, dakinis. So they got a little bit much more pantheons, But they're not different. They're still the same. They're still different. They're still the light of the moon. Light of the moon, but they're different, reaching everywhere. And so that's that. Another thing is when the Vajrayana, when the Theravada take refuge, they usually need a Buddha image. They need a Buddha image. They don't teach you visualize it. They don't say they visualize the Buddha. You need a Buddha image before which you do the practice. And usually you repeat after the monk, senior monk, when you do the refuge prayer, as if lay people can't do on their own. There's some kind of tradition there. They got to repeat after the sanghas. So that's a different way of doing it. With the duration of Theravada's refuge is from now as long as I live, or even temporal prayers as long as 4 months, as long as 3, so on. Mahayana refuge is from now until essence of enlightenment reached. So the duration is also different. Mahayana also doesn't describe that you have to visualize refuge object. It's only in Vajrayana that all we were chanting through that. That is, Vajrayana makes all the objects of refuge appear before us, complete gathering of holy beings, and then before that you visualize, then you do the refuge prayer. And Theravada and Mahayana, I don't know whether they recite the refuge prayer more than 3 times. Vajrayana, we do that hundreds of times. You just do that as a main practice. Maybe 50, 100, 200, 300, depending how long. And then during the whole time, you have the visual refuge objects before you. When you finish, you supplicate, you deliberately visualize they dissolve into light, bless you. So that refuge is, formal practice of refuge is very different indeed. That's right. So with the Theravada, main refuge object is the arhat in the end. Because without the arhat existing, they say there is no dharma. In many ways, it's true, And in Mahayana, refuge object is Buddha. And Vajrayana, even refuge in the triple gem, in the main thing is to realize nature of your mind. So that comes back. And so in summary, the last one is Sangha is the clarity aspect of mind, and Dharma is the emptiness aspect of it, and the Buddha is the non-duality aspect of it. So that's ultimate refuge. So this is what we have got as a topic for tonight, and you can learn to do the refuge as a analytical meditation. You just your object is the refuge object, and then you employ your body, speech, mind, and prayer position, prayer practice, and then keep your mind away from distraction and dullness. Just stay focused doing that, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So when you do sometimes the 100 prostration together with the way we did this, it just takes 20 minutes. So it's a very junky practice. And you feel like you did something. And you don't feel dull. And you don't feel slothful, or you might have little knee saying, "What are you doing for me?" But maybe knee says, you say, "What the hell did I have you for?" So you just reply. So it's a very distinct practice, huh? So with this view, and please bring this handout back next week. We will be using this little bit as we go, at least first few more sessions. So tonight we'll dedicate the merits on page 11 in English.